Hi, class. I'm going to touch a little bit on some of the distinctions that you see in practically every organization. Nonprofit organizations are really not immune to this. In some cases, they're more susceptible, depending upon the nature and the vintage of the organization itself. What I want to kind of focus on are the relatively younger organizations that are out there. Very often they are led by a charismatic leader with a very focused vision. Very often they can be geniuses in terms of what they've identified and the mechanisms they put in place to respond to a community need. And that's all fine and well. However, for long-term sustainability, one of the things that a nonprofit board should be attending to is contingencies, and that includes succession planning. What does the organization do once that charismatic leader either moves on, retires, potentially passes away? In any case, how do you sustain an organization of that sort? And oddly enough, you get kind of clues to this within the field of the sociology of religion, where you can trace very often this generational transition from cult to sect to church, where a new generation of those who have been in direct contact with that charismatic leader can carry forth that message. They have the inspiration of that direct interaction with the founding figure. One of the things that's interesting, though, is that you end up with this kind of a shift that takes place, where an organization that's relatively young can be fairly nimble, can move forward with that kind of unified shared vision with that effective leader at the helm. But as you move on into another generation, more and more what happens is that you're getting kind of this secondhand inspiration and kind of a handed down mission, and the shift starts to take place, kind of an institutionalization takes place, and you move from having that one effective leader to several, perhaps, effective managers. And the emphasis does become more in the area of management. And that's not a bad thing. In many ways, that's the key to sustainability. If you don't have that effective management foundation, then the organization is unlikely to be sustained beyond that single charismatic figure. So I just want to point that out. Basically, the bottom line is for a board that has an effective nonprofit organization that is doing good work in its mission, they have to consider what happens beyond that one leader and what that legacy is going to be. Hopefully they planted seeds, but there is this issue, and I'll just kind of wrap up with this. Sometimes those leaders are a little over-identified with themselves, and succession planning becomes a touchy subject with them. If they're the executive, the CEO of the organization, they would be, they may not want to hear it. They may not want to confront their own mortality, if you will, and consider the ceding of authority to somebody else. So there's kind of a psychological dynamic that kind of gets wrapped up in this. And my advice is that if you are a member of a board, you bring this issue up and you press it, because you can't just let it hang and then scramble at the end. I don't think that's in the best interest of a nonprofit organization. So that's the one point I wanted to make as we move on into our final week. I will be putting out a final study guide shortly, and it will cover those elements that we have taken on subsequent to the midterm exam. Keep up with the readings, because I'm not, as you can tell, really regurgitating or recapping the readings. However, you are responsible for them, much as you saw in the midterm exam. So stay tuned. I'll get that study guide out to you, and carry on.